Well, let's break from the NSA for a few minutes. This is an interesting new twist. Mark Henkel is on the line with us. He is the founder of truthbearer.org. Their slogan is bringing Christian polygamy to the church. And the website, nationalpolygamyadvocate.com, for the National Polygamy Rights Movement. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Looking through some of your material here, I'd read this op-ed earlier that you had sent. You suggest that actual biblical marriage is polygamous. Do I have that right?
Marriage is not restricted to only one man, one woman, according to the Bible. Some may choose more than one, some may not choose, and may indeed keep themselves to only one man, one woman, but it is not a restriction according to the Bible.
Right, I understand that. And in fact, I've pointed that out on numerous occasions. Polygamy, sociologically, you look at the arc of history, and polygamy tends to appear in societies where men die a lot, in societies where resources are scarce, there's a lot of warfare, or men are hunters in severe conditions, severe hunting-gathering conditions, and you end up with a lot fewer men than there are women. And in those kind of societies, polygamy actually makes sense. I mean, sociologically. On the other hand, in modern America, where, we've got 50-50 men and women, the communities, the polygamous communities, the Mormon communities out in Arizona and Texas and whatnot, and Mexico, regularly have to dump their 15, 16, 17-year-old boys on the streets. Literally they go through and figure out which ones they're going to scrub and dump these kids. They're homeless. And because the men don't want the competition, they want the young girls, but not the young boys. It seems to me that polygamy in the modern sense, other than, if somebody wants to have 2 or 3 or 4 people all living together, without legal status, I don't have a problem with that. But it seems that polygamy, as, if you're advocating this as a societal norm, that it no longer makes any sense at all.
Well, I have to first interrupt you in terms of utilizing examples of societies where warfare and they've lost men, or using rogue, isolated sects. We're talking about the National Polygamy Rights Movement for consenting adults, consenting adults making choice. And the reality is that a modern, secular, Western society, America, we're talking about polygamy as a woman's free choice. For indeed, some women would actually choose it as an option. For an example, a very highly educated, high career woman might like to make a choice with yet another woman who's also wants the choice to be a stay-at-home mom. They make the choice for an excellent man, and by so doing, the career woman who has to travel, she can do so and have her career and know that the woman who wants to stay home, the children are being cared for by a woman who loves them, rather than shipping the children off to strangers, low-paid strangers, at daycare.
Well, what about a man who works
free choice for women?
Right. What about a man who works during the day a woman who works during the day and could have two? Well, actually, a woman who stays home all day and has one husband who works day shift or one husband who works night shift. The
National Polygamy Rights Movement for Consenting Adults is calling for freedom for consenting adults, unrelated consenting adults.
Okay, so are you specifying this as, is your form of polygamy, the form of polygamy that you're advocating, is it multiple women and one man, or can it also be multiple men and one woman?
We're saying government doesn't have the authority. It is about unrelated consenting adults making their choices.
So it could be either one.
Consenting adults choose is what they choose.
Right. Okay. I had in fact, I still know them. I have friends who are two couples, actually, who live together as I don't know what you call it, polyamorous, I think is the word that they use.
Well, there is a difference between polyamory
2 men and 2 women.
There is a difference.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But basically they're consenting adults and they're just living together. And so and there's no law against that to the best of my knowledge. The old sodomy laws and the old,
That's the irony. is that uncommitment is allowed, but commitment is a crime. Talk about anti-family values. The reality is that polygamy is actually a crime for unrelated, consenting adults to make their choice to do so.
If they try to get married, it's called bigamy. In other words, are you saying that you're opposed to bigamy laws?
Not against dishonest bigamy in which consenting adults are not aware of other relationships. We're talking about unrelated, consenting adults making their free choices for a marital relationship. Government has no authority to license, define, control, restrict that unrelated, consenting adults making those choices and making that.
Are you polygamous?
That is not an answer I can say because, indeed, that's the issues of the law.
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of polygamous families. In fact, the typical way that the Mormons do it out in the open is the husband marries one woman and then the rest of them are just like girlfriends who happen to live in the house.
That is indeed the only way by which modern polygamists have the way around the law, as long as they're not acknowledging it, because indeed in some states, for example in my own state of Maine, the mere act of purporting to be polygamous itself is a crime. Free speech is a crime in America today, with many anti-polygamy laws across the country in various states. Just purporting, and even if there's no marriage license, a married man with the full consent of his happily married wife calling a second woman wife, the free speech act of that one word is a crime today.
Or a woman calling a second husband.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whichever, it's a crime. We're saying that Justice Hollingsworth is about to be decided by the Supreme Court, and they're saying that laws were based on animus-based stereotypes. That's exactly what applies to polygamy. That
so, are you calling for?
They're using animus-based stereotypes.
Yeah, let me.
Not unrelated to Mark, in a society of America.
No, I got it. And Mark, I'm not trying to debate this with you. I'm trying to understand it. Mm-hmm. Are you calling for the legalization of polygamous marriages, which would require a whole new body of law to decide who gets what in the event of the death of somebody? You know, how long, who's been married, how long, all that. Are you calling for that, or are you calling for just an end to the wars, or to the war on polygamy, to the laws that say that if you're proclaiming that your relationship is polygamous, that you've committed a crime?
We're calling for decriminalization of polygamy, and on the same basis that we have the exact same constitutional rights that those who choose one man, one woman, and those who choose
marriage is not mentioned in the Constitution, so I don't see how
that's correct. Marriage control is not allowed by the federal government, whether it's to choose one man, one woman, whether it's to choose same-sex marriage, or whether it's to choose unrelated, consenting adult polygamy. Yeah. You're right, but so the fact is, if OMALs and SSMs get to have freedom, then UCAPs get freedom as well. That is one man, one woman, same-sex marriage, unrelated, consenting adult polygamists. America is about freedom for unrelated, consenting adults making their own choices.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that.
That's what we're asking for.
I suspect
our constitutional and civil rights. Polygamy is the next civil rights battle.
So what kind of a cohort do you represent? I mean, how many people do you think are living polygamously in the United States who would come out if you were to decriminalize it?
Well, first there are probably no more than 100,000 practicing polygamists. But with that said, there are a vast multitude of more people who want the freedom of choice as unrelated consenting adults to choose polygamy, but because of the law are thereby prohibited.
Right. So and specifically, you are not Mormon, you are an evangelical Christian.
That is correct.
And you consider yourself a conservative.
I do.
A small government conservative. Okay.
Limited government, constitutionalist conservative.
Fascinating. Okay, Mark Henkel, the nationalpolygamyadvocate.com. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.